Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Freshly back from Glasgow, a very rainy Glasgow. I'm used to that with Glasgow. If you weren't aware, all of my family on my mother's side are Scottish. They're from Glasgow. She still lives up there, just on the outskirts of Glasgow. Technically more Kilmarnock, so not really the outskirts, but she's very much Glasgow born. So I'm used to the weather in Glasgow. It was quite funny because as it started to warm up slightly, I saw various people rushing out to get ice creams, which I found it's a kind of classic Scottish thing. It's about 10 degrees less than it was in England, but they were all rushing out for their ice creams because the rain had stopped for a minute. I love Scotland. I love Glasgow. It's one of my favourite cities, and it was great to be able to get back there. Obviously, the pandemic stopped me kind of heading back up there, and you know what? We had a good match, which I shall talk about in a bit, in terms of good atmosphere. Rangers fans were absolutely up for it, which was fantastic. But no, I do love Scotland. It feels like a bit of a spiritual home in a way. I just realised it kind of looks like I'm wearing something Tottenham related, like there's some kind of a fan video or something. It's not. It's actually Italian based. My daughter brought it back from her holiday in Italy. Sorry, massively diverted there from where I was going to go. Let's start with stuff that's happening right now. Ben Davies. New contract till 2025. If he sees that out, he will have reached his decade at Tottenham. Obviously, Poch's first signing back in 2014. I remember it was one of those funny ones where he was technically out on the tour when they were in America, but he hadn't actually signed yet. They were just waiting for the approval, but he'd already flown out there. Everyone knows what I think about Ben Davies. I'm so delighted that he got to experience last season in a role that suited him perfectly, got a lot of plaudits, because he was just always one of these really underrated guys in the squad. He used to get flack because he's not, Benito Davizio. No, that was a terrible attempt at some kind of foreign-sounding name, but essentially kind of that's always what it's been with him. But I just kind of felt that when he first came in, having seen what Conte done with Azpilicueta, I kind of felt that Conte would really bring out the best in Davies, and it seems like it's been the case. He's been terrific. I said he'd been terrific on Twitter, and I saw someone underneath going, that's a very strong word to use. I couldn't think of a better word to use. I think he was terrific last season. He had a lot of big performances, especially in big games. We'll all think of the block against Salah and everything. And I remember, was it Leeds? I think it was Leeds at Ellen Road when they broke, when Lloris Scott did an iffy attempt at a tackle just over the halfway line, and essentially they were running through an open goal, and Davies sprinted back and managed to block the shot as it was about to head towards goal. I think there was someone else on the line who'd also run back. I can't remember for the life of me who it was. I'm sure you'll remind me in the comments. You always do, which is great. But yeah, Ben Davies, I'm a big fan. Daddy Davies, as if you've seen the video, you know what that is. We kind of have a little nickname for him among the journalists of Gentle Ben, because he's just so easygoing off the pitch, and he's always very reliable off it as well in terms of an interview. He's very intelligent. He'll always say stuff you kind of want to say. You never hear him kind of getting angry. And he's just one of those guys that's so good for the team on and off the pitch, and it's why every single manager has loved him. Honestly, talk to Mourinho, loved him. Talk to Pochettino, loved him. Nuno, I think, as well. I'm trying to remember back, but it feels so long ago, doesn't it? It does. I'm a big Ben Davies fan. If there was a Ben Davies Appreciation Society, I would hold a laminated membership card. I don't think I'm allowed to start one, probably because all the other ones I've started in the past, I think there's a limit on how many you can start. But no, I like Ben Davies. He's always gives everything for Tottenham. He is, you hear the cliche term, a loyal servant. That is Ben Davies. And yeah, like I say, you'll see on social media, you'll see maybe the FIFA generation, I don't know. So FIFA generation, I was playing FIFA when I was young, so it's probably the current FIFA generation, maybe. And he's not one of these, sexy sounding 18, 19-year-old wonder kid types that everyone wants to sign, but players like him are invaluable, and that's why the big managers all rate him, and they do. So here's some quotes from what he said. Again, I think I've stressed this about the players we spoke to in Korea. The excitement around the players looking forward to next season and what is happening at Tottenham is fantastic. And Davies' quotes about his new contract pretty much say the same thing. I'm delighted to sign my new contract after last season and summer the club's just had. There's no more exciting time to be at this club. I'm enjoying my football. When the opportunity from the club came to extend my contract, I was more than happy to do so. I've had some really enjoyable times here. It really feels like home now, and the story continues. This is a significant amount of time in football, especially when a career is quite short, and in football people move around a lot. So it's an honour for me to be here and keep going. There's still a good core of us who have been here a long time now. It's the same faces now, just in the team, but around the building every day. It becomes a family. We've brought players in that we hope will improve us as a squad and make us more competitive throughout the season. It's going to be a pretty jam-packed schedule around the World Cup, so we'll need everyone to play their part. It's an exciting season for both club and country. It'll be a bit strange stopping mid-season for that tournament, but I can't wait. It's been a long time since Wales have been there, and we've given everything to get there, so we just have to enjoy it. We have a great group here at Spurs, not just on the pitch, but as a collective. It's a very exciting time in a season we're all looking forward to. You can feel it. Every player wants to be a part of it. Like I said, there's some of those players that Spurs want to move on that don't really want to leave because I think they can sense what's going to happen. And that's the biggest indicator of the direction the club are going in. Even, I think Kane said it yesterday, Saturday after the match. He said that, you can feel they're all pulling in this different direction, exciting direction. Eric Dyer said something along the lines of it's the best. I think he said it was the best squad or best atmosphere since he's been here, and he's been at the club since 2014 as well. Actually, same as Ben Davies. I do wonder whether we'll see a new Eric Dyer contract soon. I think his was also 2024. It was set to. I'm trying to think now. That's the thing. There's so many players, like, let's say Lucas, for example. Lucas, technically, his contract runs till 2023, but there's an option for the club to take to extend that to 2024. And you always wonder, Spurs pretty much 85-90% of the time insert an option for another year in contracts. I said earlier I'd asked Conte about a month in about the way Ben Davies had settled so quickly into that left-sided role of the back three. Because I had some Wales fans saying, but he's been doing that for Wales for years. But actually, it's a different role to his Welsh role. The Welsh role is probably more so about defending, whereas this one is a really kind of tough balance of both. He's got to defend, but he's also got to very much be an attacking player as well a lot of the time and get up that pitch and support either the left wing back or also some of the attacking players. It's an all-action role, and it needs to be a very tactically clever player, patient player as well, and disciplined player to play there. So I'd asked Conte, it was in December, so it was about maybe just over a month and a half after he joined, and I said about, it just feels like you've got a role, and I can't remember if I or he said about Azpilicueta first, but this was his answer back then. Yeah, you're right, because Ben is playing very well, and I think that role specifically, I can get out the best of him. And it happened the same with Azpilicueta, and I think the three central defenders, it's important to be good defensively, but at the same time, for me, it's important to play football, have personality, and play the ball. Also, when you find a team that's defending very low, it's very important in this system. I need players with personality to play the ball and also to be offensive. Ben is one of these players. He shows great solidity and plays well defensively. I'm happy for him. We're talking about a really good person, a good guy. He's always really focused and concentrated, and he played well. I was trying to remember what match that was after, because I think I actually opened the press conference, because you might have heard me say this before. The first question in a press conference has to kind of be quite a general one, like, how was the game? And I wasn't expected to come first, I remember, in that presser. And I was like, I really want to ask about Ben Davies. Which is probably not something many journalists actually say to themselves. But I think I remember starting the press conference something like, hi there, Antonio. I know this isn't the normal kind of way you'd probably have to start a press conference, but I really want to ask you about Ben Davies. And he was really good on him, like you say. Well, he got the answer there anyway. I think it's really good news. And it'd be intriguing to see what that means with that left-sided kind of centre-back role. Obviously, Clement Lenglet is now there and he plays that. Whether... I think I've hinted at this in previous videos. I wonder now whether that's the left-sided role of the back three sewn up for this season. Lenglet is a loan for the season without an option to buy. So, as I've said in the past, Bastoni and Gvardiol were their top 2 targets if they were going to buy someone, and the fact that neither of them are proving easy for anyone to prize away from their clubs right now, Inter and RB Leipzig, I think the Spurs have looked at it and said, well, you know what? We've brought in the cover now for that role in Lenglet, and now it's between Lenglet and Davies to kind of fight it out, and obviously there'll be a lot of games, they'll both get lots of football. And now I think if they make another central defensive addition, which I think they will, if Roden and Tanganga possibly head off, maybe even Davinson Sanchez, a bid comes in, then I think they bring in someone else, and maybe that's someone that can either play centrally or on the right, especially if it is Sanchez that would suddenly they were going to get a good bid for. I think, Lenglet can play left and centre of the back three, so that is that versatility. But yeah, I just kind of feel like that left-sided spot is now tied up. They may completely go in another direction. They may suddenly make a move for someone like Pau Torres if the deal becomes a really good available one. But I just wonder now, especially with that new contract for Davies, Lenglet there, is that a role perhaps is one they look at again next summer? Because they've got 2 very experienced players now for that role on the left. So we shall see. Talking of new contracts as well, Troy Parrott, I understand, is about to sign in. I think I reported this yesterday morning. Troy Parrott, reason he wasn't in Glasgow with the squad is he's about to head off on a season-long loan and sign an extended new deal with Tottenham. He's heading to Preston, North End. He's there doing his medical today. Whether they'll get it wrapped up today completely or whether it will be tomorrow, I'm not entirely sure. But there's a chance it could all be done today. Like I say, he's up there for the medical. I once drove to Preston when I was covering Stevenage. No, I didn't drive to Preston. Sorry, I'm confusing Preston with Tranmere. Absolutely, completely different. But yeah, no, Preston will be a good move for him. Preston, he's going to play, from what I understand, as part of like an attacking strike pairing. Obviously spoke to Troy out in Korea. It was a nice little interview, which hopefully you'll be able to find with a bit of a Google. But before that, I'd been told that his plans were he wanted to go out on loan, have a really good loan season somewhere, play as more of a number 9 rather than number 10 he did at MK Dons last season, and then return next summer really ready to kind of challenge for his spot at Tottenham. So this would be a good move for him. In the Championship, obviously his experience of the Championship 2 seasons ago with Millwall did not go so well. Played a lot of football, but just it was a struggling Millwall team which didn't help. And then obviously went to Ipswich, which was okay, and then MK Dons in the League One as well, where started off okay, and then there was just that moment when I just think he sat down, reassessed exactly what he wanted to do and where he was going to go with his career and what it was required, and had a brilliant second half to the season. Absolutely brilliant second half to the season, and was one of their key players, helped them get to the playoffs. And now he will try again in Championship, a more experienced player. International experience as well, a lot more of that with Republic of Ireland, and goals for his country as well. So, yeah, very much we'll see how much he develops this season and then what he comes back doing. But, yeah, I think playing in a strike pairing, I think he's going to have to use his experience or his growing experience as a number 10 along with being a number 9. It's going to be more to it than the role he was playing at MK Dons. And hopefully he does really well. I think it's a good fit for him. It's a good club. It's a good step. He's still only, 20 years old? Like I say, new contract for him as well to secure his future at Tottenham, which is great for everyone concerned. And yeah, I've seen some people saying, he just needs to play for Spurs now. I don't think, personally, it is the right time for him to just do that. I think his plan is a good one. I think it is to go away and get that another year under his belt. We can only use the example of Harry Kane, who obviously had about 4 loan spells, maybe more, 4 loan spells at various levels before he was ready to be. I think it was about 21 maybe, was he? 21, 22 when he started to break. I think it was maybe 21. So that would be about right. If Troy wants to do similar, then age-wise that's about right. And like I say, another season in Championship will help build him physically as well. We spoke about that in Korea. He was telling me that he's been really working in the off-season on building up his strength to hold on to the ball and hold it up and be like a link man as well. And the Championship's such a physical league as well. He will very quickly, not that he wasn't tough already, but it will further toughen him up for what comes next at Tottenham. So, yeah. Fingers crossed, that's a really good move for him, and I'll obviously be updating you on his progress with my little loan roundups throughout the season, and hopefully we're talking about goals and assists galore. So he returns a fully fledged Tottenham player ready to push on. What else did I want to tidy up at the start? Christian Romero, I've had lots of people asking why that hasn't been announced yet. Really, quite simply, it's because it hasn't actually happened yet, become permanent. So I've been asking around about that. And look, if you remember, when it was announced, it was really complicated or confusing. Spurs announced it as a permanent deal. Atalanta announced it as a loan. So we now know it is a loan. Technically, that's every person I've spoken to about this deal, the same word. It's a complicated one. So I think, from what I can understand about it, and I think I reported this at the time as well when it first happened. So it initially was a season-long loan with an option, not an obligation at the start. It was an option to begin with to buy him for 42.5 million. However, it was almost pretty much an obligation because apparently the objectives, the criteria that had to be met for it to become permanent was so likely to happen that it was all but an obligation in all but name. So, yeah, I mean, let's be honest. All parties expected it to go through last summer when they did it. I think Romero signed a 5-year deal to go on top of the 1-year loan. It was all sorted. So it was always expected that he was going to be a Tottenham player for the long term. And I remember Conte was asked in February about it, and he said, I think the club bought him. I think so. He's on loan, but we have an obligation to buy. We bought him. But obviously that hasn't actually happened yet. And obviously he's changed his shirt number now. You know, he's 17, which is very much saying, I'm here next season. So what I understand about what happens next is that it will turn into a permanent move on a specific date that hasn't actually happened yet. I think it's soon. And when it does, there will be a full announcement from the club to say it has. This next bit is purely me guessing. I think he was signed on August the 6th. So I wonder whether it would be exactly a year on, whether it would be a year's loan rather than a season loan. So whether that means on August the 6th or whether it would have to be the next day, August the 7th, I don't know. Or whether it just suddenly happens in the next couple of days. But yeah, that's what I'm being told, is that the date hasn't been reached yet. And I think logically, I guess it would make sense for it to be August the 6th or 7th if it has to be the day after. So yeah, keep an eye on that one, but nothing to worry about. It's done. Like I say, the conditions have all been met anyway, from what I understand. So it's one that will go through. People obviously have been asking as well about the 42.5 million. Does it come out of this year's budget or not? It's a difficult one. I don't think there's kind of a set logic in how this works. I think Spurs will have already accounted for this. I would be stunned if it's 42.5 million in one lump sum anyway. Pretty much every transfer clubs do, especially Spurs, are very much in instalments. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Certainly, I don't think finance is an issue this summer. Is the best way to put it. From everything I understand, I'll talk about that a little bit later when we're talking about some of the outgoings to come. They're not dependent. Oh, I'll talk about it later. Don't worry. There's lots to talk about it. We'll cover all of that. So that's Romero. So yeah, keep an eye out for that one. Hopefully in the next, well, I guess if it is August the 6th, that's the next, 10, 11 days. But yeah, terrific player. He's very good against Rangers. He is absolutely class. And he is going to be, as long as he can steer clear of injuries, I would think within this season or maybe even next, we'll be talking about other people will be talking about him as one of the best defenders in the Premier League. I think Spurs fans kind of know he's going to be. His relationship with Conte is really interesting. Conte knows he's class, but I think he also really likes to keep him on his toes. Every time you ask him about Romero, it's very much what he can still improve on, and he knows this and he knows that he needs to work on. And I love that. You've got to push them. Even if they've got the most incredible natural talent, there's so much more to it. And, we've seen that with other players, that there's much, much more to football than just natural talent. Big Romero fan. Definitely Romero Appreciation Society. I would be a fully paid up member of that one. Let's talk briefly. I say briefly. Every time I say briefly, people say you say briefly and you spoke about it. Just out of interest, I should probably say this. 99% of people say that they like these longer videos, which is fantastic. These long videos. I do get the odd person that says, could you just do 10-minute videos? What I'd say about that, it's not many people, just the odd person says that. What I would say about that is, I don't think I could fit all of this into 10 minutes. Look, I know, sometimes I go off on weird diversions, as you've already heard in the opening 20 minutes of this. But I'd like to think I cover so much and try to give you as much information about everything. I think a 10, 15-minute video, you're probably going to miss out a lot of the stuff. And sometimes when I'm talking at length about a topic, other little things will come into my brain that I've remembered, I've spoken to someone or heard about as well. Whereas I think this isn't that kind of channel. And I'm sorry if anyone is looking for like little 10, 15-minute bite-sized videos. That's not what this is. It is literally once, maybe twice a week, me just absolutely getting everything out of my brain, essentially, into the camera. And obviously, people could take what they can from it. It is such a raw thing. It is very much, I film this, I upload it, and that's what it does. I don't edit it, I don't do anything. You are getting my raw stream of consciousness, pretty much. So sorry if anyone wants a slightly different format, but that's probably not what I can do. I'll do the odd short video when there's something really breaks, and like we had with Djed Spence stuff out in Korea, I will do a quick video on that. But now on the whole, that's pretty much what this is. So apologies to those few people who have asked for that. But yeah, Rangers match. It was good. Good atmosphere, sellout crowd, in the rain. I love Ibrox. Ibrox is a stadium that, like I say, I've always been up to Glasgow many, many times. I used to pretty much go once or twice a year. And I drive around Ibrox a lot, but I've never actually been in it. Loved it inside. It's so old school. It's so traditional. It's got a little bit of a White Hart Lane vibe to it as well, I felt. And the noise is fantastic. It is. It's one of those beautiful old stadiums. It was class. It really was class. And the Rangers fans were brilliant. They were so up for the game. It's really nice to see. It's like a slightly different version of Korea, how excited the fans were to see Spurs there. Do you know what? Rangers, I felt a lot of the Rangers fans were really excited to see the likes of, Kane and Son and all of that play. And it was a really good match for Spurs in terms of Rangers are a bit further ahead in their fitness. They've got their season starts next weekend. I think it is the Scottish Premiership. So that starts next weekend. And I think they've also got European games as well, pretty sharpish after that. So to play a team that's a bit fitter, a bit like the Team K-League, was really good for Spurs and their fitness levels. And there was a lot of pressing. Spurs were doing a lot of pressing. There were moments when they dropped back and Rangers had a little bit more momentum because of the crowd mainly pushing them on. But I felt on the whole, had Spurs taken a lot of the chances, because they created a lot of chances in the first half, probably the most they've created in a half during this pre-season so far. If they'd taken a lot of those, I think it probably would have been 3-4-1 at half time. It was a good game, and he pushed a lot of the players further than they have in the previous one. So a lot of them were playing, an hour, 75 minutes, which shows that they're getting there fitness-wise for the match against Southampton on August the 6th. So it's August the 6th, yeah. It's Premier League opening day, isn't it? I said that about Romero as a potential date. It's actually their opening match. So here's what Conte had to say after the game, exactly on that, kind of the friendly and exploiting them. We're trying to exploit these friendly games to give the opportunity to new players to come in and play in our idea of football. For sure about Clement Lenglet, it was the first week to work with us. Also Yves Bissouma, he was with the COVID in Korea. Sounds like he was out there on holiday with the COVID. He was with the COVID in Korea, but it's okay. I'm happy because the game wasn't a friendly game. It was a real game. You know very well that the last game they played against West Ham, they won 3-1. That was in the week. And you know the fitness of Rangers is higher in front of us. But despite this, I think that we played with a good intensity, a good pressure and good quality. If I have to find a situation today that was to improve, it was because we created a lot of chances, especially in the first half when we didn't score. But I understand we're still improving and are also a bit tired because the pre-season is also important for us to make the fitness at the high level. But I'm happy because, I repeat, the tactical aspect, I'm very pleased. For sure, we can improve because we conceded the goal that we can avoid. But I'm delighted with the attitude and the will and desire that the players are showing me in this pre-season. I'm very happy. The goal they conceded was a bit naff. It was crossing from the right that maybe Ryan Session would have felt he probably should have got a foot to, but then it did one of those awkward bobbling around the box. And the Rangers striker was just able to kind of toe poke it in far too much space. It was difficult to we were trying to work out who it was because we didn't have any replays. It was one negative I'd give the stadium was that in the press box we didn't have any monitors to see replays. So very much it was, you got your one look and that was it. And actually I haven't watched it back yet. It looked from where we were that maybe it was Romero's position. After saying how good he was, it was maybe his area of the box, his zone, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I don't want to lay in too much into that because I'd have to see it back. But what was really important, I felt, for Spurs and Conte is once again, Kane and Son look so sharp. They've really... The fact that they're not needing much tuning up this pre-season is huge. Let's be honest, they are two of Spurs, if not the two star players for Spurs, and so much revolves around them in an attacking sense. Kane's now got 5 goals in the 3 pre-season friendlies, and Son, I felt he really warmed up. Could have had a couple of assists in the first half, ended up with 2 assists in the second half, and he looked really dangerous. I thought Kulusevski looked really dangerous as well. Kulusevski looked bright, looked sharp. He faded slightly in the second half and got himself very annoyed when he got booked for simulation, which he didn't feel was fair. But yeah, Kulusevski was good. That front trio, and obviously with Richarlison there as well, and Lucas. But what I thought was really nice was when Kane and Son separately came off to be subbed, the Rangers fans gave him a standing ovation, which I thought was really classy. And that kind of goes back to what I'm saying about, I do feel there was an appreciation of being able to watch. Let's be honest, Giovanni and Bronkhorst said afterwards, these guys are two probably in the top 5-6 strikers in the world, was what he said. And I think to be able to see that at your stadium, Kane's first goal was beautiful. It was trademark Kane. It was cutting in from the left-hand side, and he kind of uses the defender as like a marker, and then he can curl it around the defender into that far right corner. Beautiful goal. Absolutely classic Kane goal. And yeah, it was quite funny because obviously Fraser Forster was getting booed every time he got the ball when he came on and the ball came near him, and he made one little catch because obviously ex-Celtic man. But Kane and Son, there was just a real appreciation for what they were doing and the way they played, and I thought that was really lovely to see. Just understanding football quality, I guess, is what it was. So yeah, that was cool. It was kind of like nice parallels of respect and disrespect. And the disrespect, very much, Conte seemed to be indicating was coming from Bayern Munich, because we talk about Harry Kane, and you might have seen it. Bayern CEO Oliver Kahn, the former goalkeeper, and Julian Nagelsmann, the boss. I've been speaking about Kane this week, and mostly saying his quality, pretty much admitting it. They're not going to likely be able to sign him this summer, but who knows in the future. And Conte does not like that. Conte's got 2 things that he doesn't really do much. One is talk about referees and decisions. Really has to be furious for that to happen. And the other is not to talk about players from other clubs. So when he was asked about it, it's actually a member of the Scottish media who asked him about that one. And he said, he kind of pretty much went straight in there, slapping away. Honestly, I didn't hear this. For sure, I'm a coach who doesn't talk about players from other teams. I don't know why this happened. The situation at Tottenham is very clear. The plan is very clear with the club. Harry is a part of the project. He is a very important part of the project, and yet it's only rumours. At the same time, I repeat, I don't like to speak about players from another club. If I want to do something, I go to speak to the club, not through the media. I think maybe it's a bit disrespectful for the club. This is my way. This is my way to face the situation with other players. So yeah, he wasn't impressed. And yeah, like I say, Kane's going nowhere. Son's going nowhere. These two guys are Conte's star men, and they've got no intention of being anywhere else right now. They're loving it. The fact that he is absolutely working them to pieces on the training ground, but they know it's all going towards a big season, hopefully, ahead. Yeah, they're not looking at any other clubs right now. So yeah, I think maybe just in Germany they're a little bit more open about the way they discuss stuff, and maybe in terms of the football media and what they say, and maybe that clashes with, I guess, not wanting to hear that. And it'd be an interesting one as well from Kane's perspective. Kane's been very clear that he doesn't want to play abroad. So I'd be very, very surprised if that was a move that was to ever happen. I think for him, this is my own personal opinion. This is not based on information or anything. But my personal opinion is I think at this point, as long as everything goes the way we want it to go at Tottenham Hotspur, I think perhaps he sees out his career at Tottenham and then goes to do stuff in America. Obviously, if everything goes wrong at Spurs, and I do think he'd probably look to stay in the Premier League. And like I've said before, the talk was always that from people around Harry Kane was that if he was happy with the way things are going, they would be absolutely open to discussing a new deal in pre-season or at the start of the season. So yeah, I wouldn't be too shocked if that happened as well, because he is clearly very happy. And he's happy with what the club have done in terms of transfers. That was another key element, and they've moved quickly. 6 new signings. 6 new signings. So still trying to get my head around that. And we're not even out of we're getting towards the end of July now. Not even season hasn't even begun. So yeah, he's very happy with all that. So I wouldn't be shocked if we do see a new Harry Kane contract in the near future. But but then America, and you can see the way his brand is being built up over there. He was on the Jimmy Fallon show. He was in the Icons Golf Series over there recently as well, and he was at where did he go? Was it US Open as well before the end of the season? So I think it all feels like a brand building exercise for when he goes over there. Whether that's whether he does it, he's always said he wants to be an NFL kicker, which perhaps that is something that he could do, or perhaps it is just a case of wanting to build that brand over there. Whether that means playing MLS football or playing MLS more, I don't know. I don't think you could rule it out entirely because of that whole American brand building exercise that is clearly going on. But I do wonder whether he loves his NFL. So whether he'd like to try and use his last few years to have a go at that or not, we'll see. But yeah, the Bayern link doesn't really make any sense to me. I understand why they talk about him in terms of trying to big that up, but yeah, it doesn't. I think there'd have to be something go a bit pear-shaped over here for that to be considered as an option. It doesn't really make any sense to me, but there you go. It's just me. Also, Spurs won a trophy. They won the Walter Tull Memorial Cup. If you please do look up about, I can't do it. I'd do him a disservice if I spoke about him, but please do Google Walter Tull and look up his incredible life story. He played for Spurs and Rangers as well, which is why this cup was being played for. Just incredible. I suppose you could say a trendsetter in his life and what he did, and whether that was playing football or whether that was in the fighting as well in the army. Honestly, please do Google Walter Tull, because it would be a far better representation of his incredible life than I can possibly say. But so this cup is named after him, and Jermaine Defoe, quite nicely fitting because he also played for Spurs and Rangers, handed it to Hugo Lloris. I always find it fascinating when you get these pre-season trophies, because the players have to kind of strike this balance of not being disrespectful to a pre-season trophy. So they have to celebrate in a way and be happy. But then the flip side is if they over-celebrate, they know they're absolutely going to get ridiculed and mocked by mostly rival fans. But because especially a team like Tottenham that has one trophy in 20-something years, competitive trophy. So yeah, I always find it quite funny watching them and how they react. I always remember, was it the Peace? No, not the Peace Cup. What was there was a trophy. The Peace Cup, I think, was under Martin Jol, wasn't it? There was a trophy, I remember, in the Poch era when Vincent Janssen went mad celebrating it in pre-season. And I got the feeling it didn't go down very well with Pochettino at all. He celebrated like he'd won the World Cup. I don't know. I'm presuming there was a sense of, not sarcasm, but just having a bit of fun. I can't remember what the name of that trophy was now. I feel like it was not an American one. I feel like it was maybe in Asia, or was it Australia? I don't know. Again, I'm sure you'll tell me in the comments. But yeah, striking that balance is quite an interesting one, and how they do it. Let's talk about wing-backs. So the right wing-back situation mainly. It was really interesting what he went for. I felt sorry, poor old Matt Doherty. I was looking out from the press box. I watched him come out with Yves Bissouma before the game. And he was having a real look across the pitch. There was other players sitting in the dugout, but he was having a proper look out across the pitch. Poor guy. That was all he ended up doing on the day. He didn't play a minute. He was the only outfield player, Matt Doherty, not to play a minute, which, yeah, I don't exactly know the logic behind that. Yeah, I don't understand it entirely. But, so, Conte started with Emerson Royal, played the first 45 minutes, and then we had the Lucas Moura right wing back move again, which was interesting, especially as you had Doherty and Spence. You know, you'd think, because look, let's be honest, Emerson Royal, I've said it many, many times because it is my view, very good defensive, solid fullback. Wing back, no. He's not. And I think, although he's only 23, and I think you can train a lot of stuff into players, I just don't know whether you can train the attacking decision-making and quality that's required for the role. So that's just my opinion on that. So I do find it interesting whether that... some people suggested maybe it was a shop window thing. I don't know how many people will be watching the first 45 minutes of a friendly that's, if you're not there, as was only available on Spurs Play, the Spurs subscription service. I don't know whether shop window is really the thing. But certainly with Lucas coming on instead of Spence and Doherty, I don't know, it feels like a message to someone. It may be a positive one to Lucas. It may be saying, look, Lucas told us this out in Korea that Conte has spoken to him since he's come back and said, you're going to be an important player for me this season. And whether that is saying to Lucas, look, I'm going to get you minutes, lad. I will get you minutes, whether it's at right wing back or whether it's in one of the attacking slots. I will get you on that pitch. We've got a lot of matches and you'll play. Whether it was a message to Matt Doherty, you've got to keep kicking on because obviously he's come back from his knee injury towards the end of the season. And Matt Doherty's been here before. He's had to win his spot and he was doing that before that knee injury. And then for Spence, maybe it's to say, look, you've got to come here and not think that you're going to start matches. You've got to come here and fight for that spot. Maybe it's a bit of all of the above. Like I say, the whole Emerson side of thing is really interesting because from everything I understand, Emerson, he's a very popular member of the squad. He really enjoys being at Tottenham. I don't think he really wants to leave. However, I do think if the club were to get a good offer for him, I think he'd be the one out of the bunch that they'd probably sell because you do get good money for him. And purely looking at it from a wing-back perspective, he's the least natural fit. In a way, if you could combine the Brazilians, if you could combine the defensive stability that Emerson, I feel, has got with the attacking ability of Lucas, you squash them together into a really good wing-back. But yeah, as it is, there's only two natural wing-backs at the club, and that is Spence and Doherty. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens in that scenario and how it all works. But Spence, yeah, Spence is an interesting one because I was speaking to people about Spence this week and the whole idea of the transfer. Obviously, you'll be fully aware that I said that in Korea, I asked Conte about stuff and he told me that Spence was a club signing, but one that he greenlit because he believes he's shown that he can be an important player. And quite interestingly, I heard from the other side of things that the club would not normally have identified and signed Djed Spence for previous managers at Tottenham. There was a feeling, and Paratici went and watched him, and it's very much Paratici has been watching him closely. There's a feeling that Spence ticks all of the boxes for a Conte wingback, which I found was quite interesting because obviously we look at it and yeah, I think a lot of people when they see club signing immediately think, oh God, is the player doesn't want it's being forced upon him. Well, Antonio Conte doesn't get anyone forced upon him. If he's greenlit the player coming, it's because he's looked at it and thinks, yep, okay. Because let's be honest, Antonio Conte is not going to be spending his days researching Championship right wing backs. There's just not. That's not how it works. That's my doorbell going. That could well be Antonio Conte saying, I do. I do watch a lot of Championship football. He may well do. But I'd imagine his forte, his strength of scouting knowledge or football knowledge is maybe not going to be Championship right wing backs. But yeah, so when a player like that is offered to him, he obviously will do his due diligence as well, and he will listen to the opinion of Paratici, obviously, who knows Conte inside out, and that's how that will come. But I found that fascinating that Spurs, in a way, have actually done something very much for Conte there. So when we say a club signing, is everyone I hear, and this is a couple of people, 3 people have told me this, that he's not a signing they would have made under a previous manager, previous managers. He very much is tailored towards ticking the boxes for Conte and a wing-back, which is height, pace, strength, fitness, and ability to take on players with the ball. Don't forget, I think I told you last week, Spencer's completed more take-ons attempted more take-ons last season while he was on loan at Nottingham Forest than all of Spurs wing-backs left and right side combined. So that was Doherty, Emerson, Reguilon, Sessegnon combined. He took on more, and that is what Conte wants. He wants the player, the wing-back, to be in the other side on the box, ready to put the ball in the net, or driving forward, essentially making it a 5-man attack. And obviously that's stuff that he's going to work on. His 19 minutes or so he came on and played. It was bright. Funny enough, the main thing he did was a defensive thing. He came on, it's pretty much his first touch. He showed really good strength and timing to win the ball in the Spurs box when Rangers really were through on goal. It was very good for a first touch. I didn't get to see too much attacking wise from him. There were a lot of times when I felt a little bit sorry for him. He was looking up for an option and there maybe weren't players there to pass to. Obviously, Lucas had moved forward into the more attacking role. But yeah, I think he's going to benefit, I think, from Perisic as well. Perisic, Sessegnon told us in Korea that Perisic has already been given like pointers and stuff and little kind of tips on how to bring what Conte wants, which is, you can look at these players. Sometimes you might wonder whether they're going to be rivals, Perisic and Sessegnon, because they're in the same position. But actually, 33-year-old, he knows Conte inside out and what he wants from his wing-back. So I think it's really cool to be giving that information as well. It shows what a team player, I guess, he is, rather than thinking about himself. But also, those tips will be passed on to Spence as well, because whether it's directly, whether it's Perisic actually talking to Spence as well, which he may well do, but also Sessegnon and Spence are good mates. Grew up together at Fulham, England under 21 teammates as well. So yeah, Spence will get all of that info as well on how to, because Perisic scores a lot of goals as a wing back, creates a lot of assists. So that's exactly what what is Sessegnon 21, 22. Spence is 20. Oh no, both 21. Yeah. Spence and Sessegnon both 21. So the 33-year-old working with these 21-year-olds, only good things surely is going to come of that. He's fascinating to watch, Perisic, because you saw him coming on and he's clearly got that little thing with Sessegnon, because even before he was coming on, he was saying to Sess, like, come on, it's you. You're coming off. I'm coming on for you. That was before the board had even gone up. He felt obviously comfortable enough to say that. We know that he got Joe Rodon. He personally rung up Joe Rodon, asked Joe Rodon if he could have his number 14, because that's a number he's worn a lot through his career. And Joe Rodon, to be fair to him, had no qualms about handing it over. He wasn't really attached to the number anyway. And there was a nice little message, I think, after the game on his Instagram, Perisic saying thanks for the number, Joe. We saw him, what did we see him doing? He was applauding Davinson Sanchez a fair few times for bits and pieces that he was doing on the left. Davinson Sanchez didn't have a bad game, actually. He's after his kind of crazy game in Korea, especially the first game. Second one wasn't too great. This was quite a good performance from him. It was, he was probably a bit more solid than Dyer, who had a little bit of a sloppy first half. Second half, he was better. But yeah, no, I thought Sanchez played well. Again, it's a friendly, so you've got to add that as a caveat. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that Perisic was applauding him and instantly on the pitch as a leading kind of experienced figure, which is exactly what they want from him. I think when going back to right wing back, I think the lineup Spurs have against Roma in Israel on Saturday is going to give you a good pointer towards what happens next in that right wing back slot. You'd imagine whoever he decides to give a fair chunk of game time to, will be the one that, because it's such a physically demanding role, I think he has to give whoever is likely to start against Southampton a big chunk of game time that day. I think some of the players have come back, and the ones who didn't get a lot of minutes have been kind of playing not into the Italian team, but kind of inter-house, kind of training matches behind the scenes to help their fitness. Normally when they do stuff like that, it's 3 30-minute period games they do. But I think some of them have been doing those to kind of up their game sharpness as well. So it'd be interesting to see whether Spence gets in there, whether Spence starts against Roma or not, and whether he has a proper look at him, or whether Matt Doherty gets his chance, or whether Emerson again, he could completely go in the other direction and Emerson could be the man. Maybe just because he trusts the defensive side, or whether Lucas, again, the experiment continues as a right wing back. So yeah, keep an eye on that Roma lineup, because I think it will tell us a lot, probably in a fair few positions as well. Yeah. In terms of the quality, it was quite interesting. Some people are a little bit annoyed, I think, that all 6 signings started on the bench, but I actually just think that kind of shows how strong the squad is. And also, don't forget, other than Richarlison, all of those players at much lower levels of fitness. You've got a few. You've got Spence just coming back from... Perisic just coming back from injury. Lenglet had just arrived a week before. Basuma had just had COVID. Spence had just arrived as well. Obviously, Fraser Forster's goalkeeper. So yeah, I don't think there are... Other than Richarlison, who I think it just looked like he wanted to give Kulusevski a lot of game time, I don't think any of them probably had the fitness levels to start a game and play an hour yet. But you know what I think was really interesting to see was that... So you would have heard me say this, I've said this in the past, when Conte used to look at his bench last season, he would just look at it and he would just turn back to the pitch, because he's a bit like, I don't have the required quality on my bench to change this game, or at least keep it at similar levels. Towards the end of the season, I've said this a million times, he had 5 academy kids on there. And they'd only had a few injuries, Spurs, but he had 5 academy kids who, they're fighting for a top 4 spot. You can't just throw them into that scenario. And I just felt it was incredible to see the changes that have happened, because, let's put it this way, Spurs started the match yesterday with only 3 players who ended last season at the club. That's incredible. So 8 players ended that game on the pitch in a Spurs shirt that were not wearing a Spurs shirt at the end of last season. So you had Richarlison, Perisic, Spence, Forster, Lenglet, Basuma. They were all out there. Pape Matar Sarr, of course, as well. who signed last season but obviously went back on loan to Metz, and even Brian Hill, who left in January. So 8 of those players were not at the club last season, which just shows how huge the squad is, but also how increased the level now is of the quality that he can turn to, and that's key. That's exactly what he was after. And it's also notable, the squad now is so strong. The 24-man travelling squad had no young players, academy players, and there was no Harvey White, there was no Troy Parrott for the reason we said earlier, but also you've got the 4 that stayed at home: Winks, Celso, Ondembele, and Reguilon, and obviously Skip and Davies also injured. So you had 6 first-teamers that weren't even in that 24-man travelling squad. It's so much better now, and in terms of on the pitch, who impressed? I'd say Perisic impressed me the most. He got about half an hour. Obviously, he'd had that calf injury, but you know what? If anyone thought that being 33, he might have slowed down, not a chance. He's still got a good acceleration on him. He was pressing high up the pitch with good tackles, an overhead kick that he sent over the bar, and right kind of at the death, got to the byline, sent a nice kind of chipped crossing at Richarlison. I think he headed it at the keeper, if I remember correctly. He's lost none of his energy whatsoever. I think he's going to be a huge signing on and off the pitch this season. I think he's the one that maybe have gone under the radar because of all the signings since for people outside Spurs. I think Perisic is going to be a massive, massive signing. Sometimes clubs just need those winners, and he has. He's won the Champions League. He's won the league titles in multiple countries, twice in Germany with 2 different teams, Dortmund, Bayern. He's won it with Inter and Serie A. He knows how to win, and he's super fit. And quite frankly, the other players, anyone thinking that they can kind of glide through Conte's training session because it's not important, will just look at him and he will be working like a madman as well. Clement Lenglet came on. He got about 19 minutes. Solid, no frills. That's the way I'd kind of describe his appearance. Played on the left of the back 3. Yeah, it was all right. It wasn't long enough for him to do too much defending that really caught the eye. Like I say, Spence, good defensive moment early on, but attacking wise didn't get too much of a chance. Forster, other than being booed, didn't have too much to do other than one catch I remember he made from, I think it was a header, which was comfortable enough. Basuma played the whole. He replaced Bentancur at half time. Played the whole second half. It kind of sat quite deep in like a bit of an anchorman role. Let Højbjerg get up the pitch more. I actually saw when Perisic came on. I think it was Perisic came straight over to Højbjerg and was pointing up the pitch to say he wants you to get even further up that pitch. Basuma's all right, yeah. I mean, he's an incredibly skillful player. We didn't see too many like kind of flashy moments from him. Obviously, just back from COVID, he's probably feeling his way back into the game. But that will have done him good, getting 45 minutes in his legs. Richarlison, I like the look of Richarlison. This is his 3rd game, so fitness-wise, he's in a better place than others. He just doesn't stop moving. That's the key thing for me. He is constantly a threat. He's constantly moving around. Started off, he came on for Kulusevski, so he was playing on the right, and then he ended it when Kane went off as the central striker. And yeah, like I say, the movement even to peel away to get the header on Perisic's late cross. I like Richarlison. I think he's going to be... When Conte talks about that kind of level of quality and being able to change, I think Richarlison is the perfect exemplification of that. And actually, yeah, he did speak about him afterwards. He kind of used him for that exact point. So he said, Richie for sure is a player that we signed to improve the quality of the squad. Also the possibility to make rotations with players that don't drop the level. If you want to be competitive and become a strong team, the squad has to be with at least 16, 17, 18 players that has to keep the same level. Not the level up and then the other level medium. Otherwise, you're not competitive. I think with the club, we have just started to do this improvement, to try to have the possibility during the game with the 5 substitutes and in between one game and another game with the Champions League to make rotations. The situation, I think, it's too vital for me, and especially if we want to have ambition. Then one game we're going to play one player and another game another player, but they need to be able to play 90 minutes, 70 minutes, 30 minutes. The most important thing is when they go on the pitch, they're effective. the impact has to be terrific for the opponent, not for us, as in he's saying, harm the opponent. I think that we worked in this aspect with the club, but you know that we've just started this process to bring and to improve step by step the squad. And as I've said all this before about how Conte wants to get this mentality across that there is no set first player in this pecking order, that every match it could be either or because the quality is so high. And that's what big teams do, and that's exactly what he's referring to there as well. Other ones that came on, Sarr, he came on with only 9 minutes to go. It was a bit difficult to really assess him. He didn't look out of place, is probably the best way to put it. And like I say, we'll see what happens with him next. Do you know what? A little nod and mention towards Joe Rodon, who I thought came on. Eric Dyer took a big whack and they replaced him just as a precaution, really. I thought Joe Rodon came on, did really well. He kind of marshalled the defence in the centre, obviously with more experienced player either side. And interestingly, he's grown his hair out. He's got a bit of a beard going. And from the press box, you kind of do a double take because he looks a bit like James Maddison. Just slightly looks a little bit like James Maddison, which was, like, huh? Have they done that deal? So I found that interesting. But I think the key now is that, like I say, the squad is bloated. It's now gone the other side. It's much, much stronger than it was, and quality-wise, it's much, much stronger. But it is at a point where you've got extra people as cover for positions that you don't require. Like I say, if they'd taken all the senior players, it would have been 29, 30 would have gone. It was 6, wasn't it? It took 24-man travelling party, 6 stayed at home. So it's a 30-man squad, which is probably just pushing it too much. Because it's not only, there's a financial aspect, of course there is, in paying so many wages for so many players, but there's also the aspect of unhappiness and players not playing and the kind of seed that grows within the squad when there's players that aren't playing and aren't happy. And clearly there are some players that want to go because they're just not going to play. And this is kind of phase 2. Think about the Marvel movies with phase 1, phase 2, I think it's phase 5 and 6 we saw at the San Diego Comic-Con in recent days. Yes, I know that's incredibly nerdy and nothing to do with Spurs. But yeah, this will be phase 2 of Tottenham's transfer window. Is getting some of these players out the door. Because also, I've said this before, it impacts what comes next for Tottenham. From everything I understand, the idea for Spurs is to focus in the next week or two on really getting players out the door. And then once they're fully aware of who's going, what's happening, then like I say, with defenders, that's going to impact if they bring in another centre-back, which I do think they will. And also in attacking positions, does it mean they bring in another attacking midfielder or a striker if there's any good opportunities out there? Look, I have to always have the caveat that suddenly, if another club moves for a player that Spurs have got one eye on, suddenly they may decide they have to move quicker. That's what happens in it. But the idea is to focus on outgoings for the now. It's quite funny because I get people on Twitter saying, and I understand it because it's all very exciting, going, so who are we signing next week? And it's like, you signed 6 players. Just let them bed in, get some players out the door, and then there's still, where's the date? Still got more than a month, 5-6 weeks left of the transfer window. There's so much time to now focus on outgoings, and then you can see if there's any late opportunity to be had in that transfer market. The bulk of the players that Conte wanted in are in for pre-season. That's the key. And if you have to sign one exciting opportunity player towards the end of the window, maybe 2, maybe 3, I don't know. You do it, and So I think I've got another quote from him as well. This was about because he gave this good, interesting analogy about building a house at Tottenham. Which, when you think about Poch and building the house and putting the furniture in, I did think that was quite interesting that he kind of went there. So he said, in comparing last season, I think numerically we improved the squad, and I think that we worked with the club to improve the quality as well as that numerical aspect. When you have to play 4 competitions like the Premier League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, and especially Champions League, you need to have an important squad. And honestly, last season, I think we reached a big achievement with just 12 or 13 players. I think we tried to do our best for sure, and this is a start. You can build in 1 year a great building, but I think last season we put in a good foundation, and now this summer we tried to build the first and second floor, but we know that we need a bit of time. at the same time, we have ambition, and the players are working very hard because they believe in what we're doing. They feel that we are building something important with the club. Sorry, I finished that a bit abruptly there because I thought it was another line. Look, he told me in Korea that he would like more additions if the opportunities are there. They have to be the right ones, because this is the key, isn't it? The key now is to make sure that the players you're bringing in are maintaining that level rather than dropping it. And what I think is quite cool is, for us especially, and me as a journalist, Spurs have always pretty much operated kind of on a sell first, buy later policy, whereas this year, very much buy first, sell later. And I think a lot of that, like I said, has come because of the £150 million cushion they've had. They've been able to have that without worrying about needing to raise funds. And like I said, this isn't a financial thing. Getting the players out the door is not, they can't sign anyone unless they get the funds from that. That's not, from what I understand, the case. But what it does do, of course, naturally, it gives you more money to play with. It will boost your coffers, as it were. It will be pumped back into the team. And like I say, it's more just about removing unhappy players who won't play much football. And not least, foreign player limits, homegrown player limits, all of that, especially in Champions League, where they are, what did I say, they were 5 over in their foreign player limit registrations. So, it has to be done. I'll be intrigued to see, like I say, 6 players who didn't even travel. And there's 24 first-team senior players. Ben Davies, obviously. Conte hopes he'll be ready for the first game. It might be a bit tight from what I'm hearing, but we'll see how that goes. You never know. Maybe the new contract will boost his recovery. Oliver Skipp, I understand he picked up a foot injury, a minor foot injury in training. I know we're all scared of that word minor because of things that have happened in the past with various players. But from what I understand, it was just a knock in training. He might be a doubt for the Roma game, but they expect him to be pushing to be able to play against Southampton if required. There was a little bit of overreaction on Twitter, I felt, to that. I tweeted about it, which meant the people that were overreacting got very upset. But I don't know, it's like Oliver Skipp has had one unfortunate injury, which the treatment of it wasn't perhaps what was eventually required. It was a pelvic injury, obviously, you'll be well aware of it. And he missed, what was it, February, I think it was about 3.5 months he missed. But it's all fixed. He had surgery to fix that. It's all done. He is past that. So that's really the only serious injury he's had. Other than that, obviously, he had the broken metatarsal at the end of his Norwich spell, which meant he missed 1 game. I know it was at the end of the season, but he missed 1 game. And now this one where he might miss 1 friendly. I think other than that, it's been COVID and a suspension. That's it. And I just I don't know, I saw some tweets and stuff. I just felt it's so unfair on him. What is he, 21, 22? I saw people saying that his body can't physically handle men's football. He's the new sick note. And all of this. I was just like, kids had one injury, really. One main injury. Metatarsal injuries, wax on your foot, things like that. That's going to happen to all players in training. That's just what happens. That's just the way football, especially when you're in a position where you're quite industrious and you're centre of the pitch and you're going into challenges. But when you're talking about a body being unable to play regular football, it's not the case at all. At Norwich, he played almost every minute for Norwich in the Championship that season, other than before he missed that last game. I think there was 1 game I remember getting subbed off. Other than that, he pretty much played 90 minutes. This poor guy just had an unfortunate pelvic injury that, they tried to give him an injection which didn't really work, and then eventually it needed that surgery. And with hindsight, had that surgery come earlier in the season, he might have only been out for a month or 2. I know everyone tells me, social media, everything's a little bit exaggerated, and I just felt, it was a bit unfair. Kids took a whack on his foot in training. He might miss 1 match. Well, technically 2, I guess, because he didn't miss Rangers as well. But 2 friendlies he might miss. I've got high hopes for Oliver Skipp. don't worry about Oliver Skipp. He's going to be utterly class. He is. He really is. Eric Dyer, like I say, took that whack. From what I understand, didn't require any post-match treatment. He was out there doing the interviews. So, yeah, from what we understand, he's fine. Yeah, like I say, now it's about trying to get players out the door. Obviously, we've seen Stephen Bergwijn go, Carter Vickers gone, Jack Clark's gone, Troy Parrott's about to join Preston. Galini, obviously, his loan spell's ended. So you've had a few out the door, but there will be more. Like I say, Ondembele, Lo Celso, Winks, Reguilon, we know they're heading out the door. They're expected to. Rodon and Tanganga both got interest from Italy. Emerson and Hill have both got admirers in Spain. I think Hill has also got France. Is it Marseille? I think I remember showing a bit of interest as well. Those players that Conte will make a decision on as well. It'd be interesting because, like I say, if they let both Tanganga and Rodon go, I think you definitely have to get another player in. I think you do, especially playing a back three. You really need to bring in another player. I'd even suggest just having one go out the door. You might need another player. Pape Matar, kind of Conte was almost hinting. I asked about him in Korea. He was pretty much hinting, I think, that he'll probably head out on loan. Although, I think in domestic competitions, I think he would be very helpful to have as another squad member. But in Europe, he's clearly not going to be able to be registered because of the amount of players there. Then you've got young players as well. Dane Scarlett, Alfie Devine, Harvey White, Keona Tete, Jamie Bowden, perhaps. I think maybe they've got to... they've got to... Doorbell going again. That's probably Fabio Paratici saying, I am trying to get players out the door. But yeah, be interested because, like I said before, that Dane and Alfie, the plan was to loan them out. But there's also... Spurs have also got to be mindful that they're playing the UEFA Youth League as well, in which, if you're not aware of what that is, it's essentially like the youth version of the Champions League. It mirrors the fixtures in the group stages, and then in the knockout stages, obviously, it becomes different depending on who's got through. And it's a very prestigious competition, and although saying that, most of those players, Scarlett and Devine obviously can play in that. Harvey White, Jamie Bowden, and Tete are too old. But yeah, they've also got to have players available for the under-21s as well. But I think all those players I've mentioned, personally, I think they all need development, and that means first-team football. And yeah, Spurs have got to upgrade their squad. That's the key for now, as it should always be with all teams. I'm trying to think who else might. Like I say, Davinson Sanchez. I think if there was a big bid, I think maybe he and the Spurs would agree to it. It would have to be a big bid. Bear in mind, he was a previous club record signing as well, but I think he's reaching the last 2 years, is it, of his deal. Like I say, potentially might be an option for another in there. I'm not entirely sure. Spurs have got this funny thing where sometimes they announce contracts including the option. I think that was the case with Lucas as well, and there's been certainly with others where there's been, maybe Joe Rodon was similar. I think it was announced to a certain date, but actually that included the option as well. But yeah, all looking good at the moment. Progress being made off the pitch as well. Progress being made on it. Starmen looking very happy right now. Everyone excited about the way the club's going. And this is why I think, it's difficult probably to get players out the door as well. And the other thing, Spurs, we often talk about their wages and the salary and things like that, but actually, compared to a lot of foreign clubs, salaries are a lot better, especially the bonus payments and stuff Spurs get, which are very, very good. So actually, in terms of convincing a player to go for lesser financial terms elsewhere is also quite difficult, and whether Spurs end up having to, if it's a loan, subsidising some of that or not as well. But yeah, a lot of positivity around the club, and just get this feeling, especially after last summer and the chaos, just everyone really wants the season to start, really do. Israel will be interesting. Roma, the Mourinho factor. I'm heading over there. So that's going to be interesting. I'm hoping to get into Mourinho's press conference as well to be able to hear what he's got to say, and maybe pop a question or two in his direction if he's up for it. It'll be fascinating to see what he makes of modern Tottenham, and I'm sure he'll chuck out a little jibe towards a little dig maybe towards Tottenham, because it will feel, and probably fairly, that he was rather unceremoniously got rid of at a very kind of badly timed time, if you'll pardon the terrible use of words. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting weekend, and then the season will be upon us. So there you go. Right, I'm going to head off now. I do have a day off, so I'm going to head off now and enjoy what's left of kind of sunshine. And I shall catch you all. Probably do something maybe in the middle of the week before I head off to Israel, if there's been any more, and if not, I'll talk to you probably after the Israel game, the Roma game in Israel. Fascinating to see it, a place I've never been to. A new experience, and maybe get a sense of kind of the wider issues and everything going on. Yeah, there's a lot to it. So we shall see. Right, anyway, going to head off now. Catch you later. Look after yourselves. Stay safe, stay healthy, and yes, I shall talk to you soon. Goodbye.